Welcome to, I'm BMad. It's the talk about how to structure AI development to beat vibe coding as its own game. So we see how many of you knows the BMad methodology here? A few hands. The other ones have never heard about it? Oh. No? Nobody has heard about BMad except a couple of hands? All right. So then I guess this session will be useful. I hope that. In fact, this session is a bit about sharing my own experience on how I started a year ago and how I involved this methodology through BMad, and I extended the BMad methodology with, I would say, tools that are more agentic workflow-like toolings. So before we start, let me introduce myself. My name is Henrik. I'm a cloud-native advocate working at Dynatrace for 5 years, or more than 5 years now. I'm also a CNCF ambassador, and since last week, I'm a Agentic AI Foundation ambassador as well. So it's fresh, new, baked-in ambassador as well. But before working in the cloud-native community, which is amazing, I love this community, I've been spending most of my career first as a developer and then as a performance engineer. Why I'm mentioning it? Because I think it's an amazing practice if you want to learn a lot of architecture patterns, how to optimize things, how to configure things. So you're touching so much technology that it's amazing practice to learn architecture concepts from my perspective. So if you never done any performance engineering, there's a QR code on the bottom, PerfBytes. Scan it. It's a dedicated YouTube channel about performance methodology. And then 5 or 4 years ago, I started a YouTube channel called Is It Observable? You have it in a name. It's about observability, of course. But also I'm covering Kubernetes, security, and now I'm starting to include AI, of course, in that channel as well. All right, so enough of speaking myself. What are we going to touch base in this session? It's basically sharing my experience. We'll start with the frustration of vibe coding, how things go wrong, and why BMad resolved part of those challenges. And then we will go further with how can we automate things, how can we be more efficient, how can we keep track on the progress, and so on and so forth. All right, so let's start. So about a year ago, I first started to build project using the web UI, and then once cursor arrived, similar to what the keynote mentioned, I tried out, and I was pretty much excited to have a chat within your IDE, interacting, and I wanted to build this agentic architecture with a lot of microservices, with some RAG and everything. And I started to build it, and overall, I was kind of impressed. It was not perfect, but it was producing code that was kind of usable. I discovered that I had to do tons of integration testing, tons of validations to be able to get something decent. But overall, I was quite excited. I was super excited because I think, wow, my God, I don't have to care about so many things. I can basically delegate a bit more. I need to check, of course, but it's pretty much doing it itself. But then there's a problem. There's a problem where suddenly you reach the context window, and then the agent completely lost the context, so he has to first rescan your repo. He's asking the same question that you told him a few days ago, and then you keep frustrations. You feel like you're telling him the same thing on and on and on and on, and it's so frustrating. It's a bit like you're going to a party, you met someone, you have an amazing night with that guy or that person, and then the next morning you meet him at the breakfast, and he doesn't even recognize you. You see that frustration? And says, "Oh, what the? Come on, you know me." But this is the same problem. So I said, okay, so how can we resolve this challenge? And the problem is that if you look at my problem statement, I was alone, doing just vibe coding on myself on a single project. And then if you take a team of people doing prompt-based vibe coding, where each individual person is in charge of their component, they put some prompts, they generate some code, they do some testing, and then we integrate that mess. And then it's like a mess. You suffer, you explode the testing budget. It's not fun. So this is where I searched on the internet, and I found one guy. He has his own YouTube channel called BMad. You can check it out. And it was basically around end of last year. And I looked at it. It was very promising, and I thought, okay, let me take the same project and go through utilizing this methodology. But to keep it short, what does this methodology is all about? All this methodology is about reducing the problem of context, giving all the agents the right context so then they know the project and they can actually work. So the concept is very simple. It's a skills made of different agents, but we will touch base on this later. And each skills will be used in a specific flow. And what is it behind the scenes? Well, it's simply agile concepts: product brief, epic story, sprint planning, and each individual component or skills from the BMad methodology is used in different phases. And all the concepts is about to avoid context saturation. You make an work. He will document. He will basically pass a hand-off document. So the next stage takes the documents and move your artifacts to the next stage. So then you can reset the context on every single steps of your project, and then you never run out of context. So what do we have in BMad? We have technically we have 7 agents, but I'm presenting 6 agents of them here. Each agent has a name. I don't recall all the names. So we have Anna. Anna is the analysts. We'll touch base on what she's going to be responsible for. Then we have the actual product manager. We have Winston, which is the architecture. We have Amelia, which is the actual developer. We have Murat, which is the test manager. And we have the tech writer. And last, we have the UX. So if you have any front-end UI-based application, then you will have a dedicated agent that will be responsible for that particular task of the project. So the way it works, it has in our project we will have different phases. So analysis, planning, solutioning, and implementation. And each individual agents will be responsible of one task of the project. Analysts, of course, you don't need it specifically. If you start from fresh new project, you want to start brainstorming. So when you trigger a brainstorming session, he will ask you about your idea, what you want to have in mind, and he doesn't just take it and then start working. He will keep asking questions. It tries to get every drop of your brain to get your idea, a very structured idea at the end. So he will do also some external research. He will try to get the real value. Is it a new idea? Is it something that already existent? He's trying to figure out what you want to build and what you want to who is the target from that specific component. So that's the analysis. So you don't have to start from the analysis to first say, because you can move on to the planning phase more. And then you have the second agent, which is the PM that will be in charge from the product brief. But what happens is that we do the brainstorming. It will save the actual summary of the brainstorming, and then we move on to the next stage, which takes the results of the brainstorming and restart from scratch and do the same thing. And then, of course, I'm not going to go for each steps, but once we launch the PM, he will do the product brief. He will say, who is the audience? What are your requirements? What is a success? What is a failure? And he tries to identify every single component makes this project a success from your mind and your perspective. And then if you have UX, you can involve the UX engineer. So once you have those the product defined with all the requirements, you save it, you store it, and then you enable the architect that takes the product and say, and here is going to wake up and ask you, do you have in mind? Do you have already an idea of the architecture so you can describe the architecture? Do you have any language of preferences? Do you have anything that makes the technical aspects of the product itself? So he doesn't code, he's just documenting and structuring the actual technical design of your solution. And then once you have the architecture done, you move on to the actual PM that will take the architecture and the product, and he will translate that into epic and stories, with every epic stories having specific requirements and specific goals that you have you may have defined in the early phase. And then once you have the solutioning phase started, this is where the developer kicks in, who does the sprint planning, create stories, implement the story, do the code review. If you have implemented of course, the test architecture, he will also do some a test case that will be implemented, and then at every end of the sprint, you have a retrospective to figure out this sprint is done, we are in review, so the status move on between each single stories. So it's basically managing an actual fleet. So at the end, you don't have one agent you're talking that has knowledge for everything. You are structuring and utilizing specific narrow down agents that are there to make sure that everything is documented, structured, and the context of the technology, the code, the components, everything is passed between agents. So at the end, you got a fleet of agents allowing you to build a component perfectly. And my surprise when I shifted from the old methodology to BMad, I reduced significantly my effort to test. So the first deployment I had like a very minor bugs, like ingress rules that was not correct. But the end, it was working perfectly. And I said, wow, I didn't expect that compared to my old experience that I had from a whiteboarding perspective. But then, in my case, because I'm an observability geek in general, I said, okay, I'm going to do some observability. Try to introduce observability in the product that I'm building because it makes sense. We have OpenTelemetry available. And my conclusion for this in general is that yes, agents in general, without BMad or with BMad, they are able, of course, to produce pretty much good logs because they want to debug, so it will naturally produce logs. They will produce metrics, but usually the metric structure, they don't care so much on the cardinality of your metrics. So your metrics that you produce can be kind of very, very expensive. And then the traces that they are building, sometimes depending on the architecture that you have designed, you end up having single span traces. So a lot of spans, everything disconnected, so then you don't have this end-to-end flow in your applications, which is kind of frustrating. So the observability perspective sometimes is not pretty well covered. And then there's other major concerns that I think should be erased. Is the first, the model doesn't know which date we are, so it will grab a library available on the OpenTelemetry community. It doesn't grab the latest. It grabs usually a library SDK that is maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 years old. Then first, that is a concern. Second piece is that semantic convention, he doesn't know what it is. So he's producing spans with attributes that are not standardized. And then if you're sending it to any observability solutions, sometimes you want to take advantage of understanding what those spans means and using the semantic convention is an advantage. And then you have the collector pipeline. So collector is how you process the data. So usually sometimes they're doing collector pipelines, but they are very far from being smart. But then, if you just consider observability instrumentation as an observability piece component, is just a small brick in the wall. So you have to go further than that, because observability, you have to consider different things, and the agent doesn't never consider about things. What about sampling decisions? What sampling decisions should I put on the paper? What about my collector distro? How can I build my own collectors? What about validating my CI/CD, bringing Weaver, so OpenTelemetry Weaver, I don't know if you know about that project. So validating in my CI/CD pipeline my observability data, so then they are structured, we can identify regressions and so on. So those are usually never considered by any agents. So I say, okay, great, I love BMad, let's bring another agent. So this is what I bought, so here's the QR code to that agent. This agent has the full instrumentation scope in mind. He knows collectors, he knows distros, he knows how to, he basically will do a knowledge of your application. He will be able to identify the SLOs for that components. It will suggest dashboards. And to use it is very straightforward. You install BMad, you can add that plugin on top of BMad, or if you never use BMad, you can install BMad plus the plugin on top of it, and it works straightforward. So how does it work? So I will do a video of the demo. This is a version where I didn't do the handoff. So what I mean by the handoff, I will explain it right away. If you look at the schema that I'm presenting, the observability agents, it's called Oli, is here. So he's first doing an assessment. What is the maturity of your project as of now? And what are the actions we need to do to make it better? And then he creates epics and story. Because in the logic of the BMad methodology, you don't code. You deliver the pieces of coding to the developer at the phase implementation. So here he's structuring the work to let the other implementing it, and then at the end he will validate the work done by the developer. So if I look at everything that this agent is doing is based on an assessment. So what does that assessment means? He starts looking at your repo. He will look at Helm charts, YAML files, code definitions for metrics, logs, traces, everything that is basically could be considered as an observability component, GitHub actions as well. And then from there, he will basically generate scoring. He will score every single component, give you a score, and then from that score, he will say, okay, so we are at 2 out of 5 or 2 out of 10. To make it better, we should do this and this and this. So he's giving you like a roadmap on how you could be better into the quality of the observability that you're putting on your project. So as a small demo, so here I'm looking, I installed the BMad methodology in Cloud Code, and you can see here we have assessments. So I do observability assesses maturity. So he's scanning the code, and you will see very briefly because it goes very fast. So pay attention. Here we have some numbers. He's looking at different components and everything that could be considered as bad. So he's scoring. Oh, it's very fast. It's scoring basically out of 20. Every single component. Do we have any API leaks? Do we have any instrumentation gap? Here I say, okay, let's improve. I want to send it to a backend, and I say, I don't want to have you send it to Dynatrace or Jaeger. I want to send it to a collector. So he's designing the collector diagram, and he's suggesting which the change on the Helm charts and your deployment files with the collector configurations directly. And then once this is done, he will reevaluate the scoring about the project, how mature we are. Did we increase so here we increased the scoring, and then I say, okay, let's do some auto instrumentation. And here I know that I have PostgreSQL, so I'm going to say, let's instrument PostgreSQL. So he will enable spans on the database side, and then he says, okay, but you know what? PostgreSQL has a metric, so let's enable the metric exporter. Let's change the collector pipelines to collect those metrics and get rid of it, and index the data with the components. So then we will have correlated metrics with traces. So here is recalculating the score again to figure out did we improve, and then here you will suggest if you want to do a better scoring, we will have to do a manual instrumentation. So here is suggesting already, let's put those spans, it will be better. And I would say, let's go ahead, let's do manual instrumentation. So it's adding manual instrumentations, which allow me to be better and better. And again, at the end, I will skip it, but here's suggesting already the structure of the spans that will be sent to the backend of your choice. And then, of course, I can go further, build my SLO, build my dashboard, blah, blah, blah. So at the end, with this, I was just so excited, because then I can start building component, having it properly instrumented, and then with the instrumentation, you can basically have a feedback loop where the code connects to your backend of your choice and improve from the logging, the debugging, whatever. And then you have code that basically get better and better. And I was so excited. But the problem with BMad, you will see it, you're doing a lot of typing. And then if you have different projects, you end up with a lot of terminal opened, and you keep basically your day prompting to all those windows, and you say, come on, I want to do something better. So my question was, how can I automate this concept? And for this, I had a solution. If you follow the market, and I know that you pretty follow the market, there's a project you may know, OpenClaw. Who of you are using OpenClaw today? 2? 3? 3? Only 3? Who is using Hermes? Hermes, okay. 2? Okay. All right, I'm surprised. So OpenClaw, when I discovered the project in January, it was called ClawBot. It changed names 2 times. Now it's called OpenClaw. It's the fastest growing open source project. Today we have like a 300K stars. There's I don't know how many people is using it on a daily basis. And when I install it, so basically, if you don't know what it is, you need a machine. You put Windows or Linux or Mac. You install the bot inside of it. Don't put it in a personal computer, to be honest. And then you connect it to your communication channel of your choice. So it could be WhatsApp, Telegram, Discord, whatever. And then for me, it's like an AI bridge with more features, of course. It will basically bridge your messages that are coming in to the right LM. And you can connect different LMs depending on tasks. So it works pretty well. So I said, okay. When I looked at it, I say, I have some concerns because from a security perspective. So I don't want to give him open bar access to my local network. So I spin up a VM on my home lab in Proxmox. I gave him a specific user account on my Linux box and I installed OpenClaw. All right. And then I say, okay, but I want to drive coding sessions. So then I say, okay, let me create another VM on my Proxmox in the same subnetwork and install Claude inside of it, and then create a dedicated user that could be SSH from OpenClaw. So meaning that OpenClaw now can connect to that machine and do whatever he wants with the local Claude instance. And this is what I done. I created this BMad orchestrator. So what it is basically giving him the BMad methodology knowledge. And my goal was to say, okay, I want to send a WhatsApp message to him, do the brainstorming, create the PRD, give him some architecture concepts. I want him to understand my project. And then he's my product manager. And then I do something else. And while I'm doing something else, he's driving the epics, the sprint planning, the dev, the sprint, and so on and so forth. And from that moment, I had some freedom. So I went in February, I went skiing with the kids. I woke up early. I did the BMad session. I had 2 projects to code. So I was sending every instruction that I needed. And then the entire day I was skiing. I came back in the evening. It was deployed my cluster. I did some minor tests. It worked. I said, wow, is this the future of coding? I was a bit afraid, to be honest. But I say, wow, this is amazing. I can basically ask my employee to go ski instead of working. And I will deliver some work. But yeah, but at the end there was a problem. What was the problem? Do you have an idea? That's a good point. But my problem was something else. Remember, it's connecting with a specific user to that Claude instance, to that machine where the Claude is installed. And I had no idea what's going on. So the only way was either look at the code in GitHub to figure out what's been done during the day, but I didn't know which sprint was implemented or not. So I had to send that message very often, give me the status. And meaning that OpenClaw is scanning, looking at the other machines, burning tokens, and then giving me a feedback. And I say, oh my God, it's not sustainable. How can I do it better? So because I have no view on what's going on. So my solution is say, how can we manage those agents? And I searched on the internet different open source project, and I found Paperclip. Who has heard about Paperclip? 2, 3, 4, 5. So Paperclip is the Jira version for agents. And the actual idea is that it's pretty much structure for delegating work to agents. So you have a UI, you create project on this. I will show you in a few seconds. You have a UI, you get projects, and then all the concept is about you create a company, and then within that company you create an organization. So you need a CEO in the top, so it's an agent, and then you will define an org with an architect, with a product manager, with a coder, with a code reviewer, and so on. And then when you delegate tasks, there's like a workflow where you create a ticket in a given project, and the ticket will fly between each agents, and they're making progress. And the great thing is that in this UI, you actually see the progress, where it is, where it states, where it's blocked, where you should do things. So I think, and also the amazing thing is that there's a dedicated section for skills, so you can add all the skills that you want, and then each agent, you will add the right skills that you want. So at the end, you don't have a large model knowing everything. You're pretty using very specific agents for specific tasks. And this is where efficiency comes in the picture. But then I said, okay, great, I have a methodology, BMad, but Paperclip doesn't have BMad. So how can I include BMad in that? So this is where I created, so I took BMad skills and structure, and I created a BMad Paperclip template, so you have the repo for that. So the idea is that instead of a skills sitting in cloud, I've isolated each skills and created a persona in Paperclip with the actual workflow where you hands up the content. So here at the end you have 9 agents because I've added an extra agent, which is on top of the UX and observability agents. And that agent is the challenger, challenging your ideas, making sure that you don't code something that doesn't make sense because it exists. So that's the overall concept. So let's show you briefly the stuff. Okay. Up. Stop. Stop mirroring. Entire screen. Okay. So here, this is my BMad deployment, and you can see that I have a huge org. So you have the CEO here, Alfred. So the CTO is OpenClaw. So OpenClaw is also part of the game. So he is the CTO responsible of making sure that I get a report from WhatsApp when I'm traveling. And then I get the product manager with all the storyteller, the challenger, the product research. And then on the right side, I got the architecture, the coder, DevOps engineer for CI/CD pipelines. And then you have the Proxmox agent who is responsible for managing my Kubernetes clusters, my VMs, my Proxmox nodes, the backups, everything that I need. And at the end, you can see here you have the skills sections where you define the skill that, so you can see the BMad stuff. You define basically it's a repository of your skills, and each agent will get the skills that you need. And you can see here there's the observability agent is currently working here, so I can basically look at the dashboard, showing you where you are ticking the project itself. So you can see that let's jump into that ticket because I was doing some stuff. So I have some tickets and sub-tickets. You can see where they are, what's working on. You interact, and then you get a summary of what the action that they are doing. And for me, it's a game changer. You actually select your in Jira, but you're discussing. You can review things. You can block things. And then, of course, you can connect it to your GitHub repository, which is by nature the purpose of it. But it helps you to be more efficient in how you're building your components. All right. So to summarize, I would say that first, context. So structuring the context where each agent knows what's going on. I used to use GitHub as a reference beforehand. It was great, but not having a local in their own, let's say, a fork, the actual detail of the project, was making it more efficient. But out of that, I think managing agents is great. So I manage more about the flow, but you need to observe them. I didn't talk about these pieces, but for me, making sure that those agents are efficient and fine-tuning those agents is very crucial, because otherwise you burn tokens for nothing. And this is where my final message. If you do this, make sure that you understand what Claude is doing, what Paperclip is doing, what OpenClaw is doing, so then you can fine-tune the actual skills. I'm releasing an episode about it on my YouTube channel, so here's a QR code. There's plenty of content out there. If you love the content, love it. If you hate the content, hate it. But let me know so I can improve the content. And I think I have 1 minute and 30 seconds for time for Q&A. Do you have any questions to what we just presented so far? Do you have any questions? No questions?
What are you building with those agents?
So what I'm doing is every single product that I'm covering, I try to contribute. So here I am covering a project called Symposium, which is an AI orchestration framework solution. So I'm building the observability layer for them. And for Paperclip, I build a plugin for observability on Paperclip. Same thing for OpenClaw. So every time I do a project, I do a new contribution. And what else? What I'm doing? I also have I built a solution on my repo called the GitHub Scanner. So it scans entire GitHub and report the stars, the fork, the contributors, the issues, whatever the PR opened, and I'm doing that every day. So my fear was to not be aware of the hottest project that comes out of. So then it's generate OpenTelemetry metrics. So then I was able to figure out, oh, this project suddenly has a trend, a very hot trend because it's going very fast. So I need to look at it. So I have that. This is a project that does it. I did also another project that is aimed to scans Reddit, Stack Overflow, which doesn't make sense anymore, Medium, YouTube, and then I have a summary of everything that goes on the internet. So yeah, that type of things. It's pretty much work related. I don't do apps that manage my kids, to be honest. But, I try to manage the kids myself. Any other questions? Yeah.
How many euros are you spending per month for tokens?
That's a good point. So when on the 4th of April, when Claude says Claude is banned from OpenClaw is banned from a cloud, I start to sweat. Then I moved to Qwen 3.6 Plus on Alibaba Cloud, and I saw it was amazing. And then one day I realized I had a bill with $1,000, and I said, "Oof, I need to figure out another way." So then I have a Cloud subscription max. I have a ZAI subscription because I have a backup team, so that is always working. And then I have a Kimi Code subscription. So it's about per quarter I spend about $1,000 per quarter. About that. That's about the price. And then I have a Mac Studio at home where I have all the simple tasks, all the simple coding things where everything has been planned and structured. Then I have a Qwen 3.6 on a Mac Studio, and then it has been used for coding. So yeah, I know if you don't know how to spend money, reach out to me. I will tell you how you can spend your money. Any other questions?
You said on one slide that you want to isolate OpenClaw from your network, but on the other slide you had like an agent for your Proxmox. Do you have any guardrails in place?
Yeah, so for Proxmox, what it does, I generate, so it used the API. So I created a specific API token to manage things, and then I created the Ansible. I use the cluster API, so Capi, with Capox. So then he has the knowledge to do that. And yeah, you need significant rights but I don't give it to OpenClaw. It's basically all the paperclip runs on one machine, it's the Claude machines. It's just that it triggers different process on that machine. So it means that if you want to run 20 agents that I have, you need to give them first disks, RAM, and CPU. So then they can basically have multiple threads going on to manage the work. But it's not OpenClaw. OpenClaw, I will never take the risks to give him that type of tokens. Any other questions? No? All right. I think I'm late. I'm sorry. All right, thank you.